It's been a few weeks since the brand new MacBook Pros hit the street. No kidding, at the highest levels, these can be some of the biggest, baddest laptops that you have ever seen. But who wants to always carry around the biggest, baddest laptop? Look, I'm getting old. My back hurts. And when we specifically talk about the MacBook Pro 14, we can see a very powerful, but more importantly, very portable machine fitting itself right into the high-end productivity laptop category. And you know what? You should absolutely buy one. So why is that? Let's find out. What's up, everyone? I'm the Everyday Dad, and if I can figure it out, you can figure it out. Welcome to a You Should Buy video. First up, we do need to make a couple of notes right here at the beginning. Number one, nobody provided me this laptop. This is my personal MacBook Pro 14. I will never make a You Should Buy video without having first purchased that thing myself. And two, no, I don't actually want you to go out and buy everything in this series. Have you seen this series? This series is gigantic, but it's more about a celebration of positives of technology, and it's not a demand for you to purchase. With all of that troll repellent out of the way, let's get into the reasons why I think this is one of the absolute best laptops that you can get, and my reasons on why you should consider buying it. No matter how you look at it though, there are so darn many different versions of this MacBook. I do want to make a quick note on the version that I have and that shaped my opinion for this video. This is the base model 8-core M1 Pro, 14-core GPU, 16 gigabytes of unified memory, and a 512 gigabyte solid state drive. This specific model comes in at $1999. Pretty pricey for a laptop. Some of the power that we'll be talking about today, though, can be had with different configurations that you can choose for this MacBook. You can choose between the 10-core M1 Pro processor or 10-core M1 Max processor, 14, 16, 24, and 32 core GPUs. You can go from 16 gigabytes of unified memory all the way up to 64 gigabytes of memory, and from that demure 512 gigabyte solid state drive all the way up to the wild 8 terabyte monster option. And while this isn't necessarily a reason to buy it, something that I really like about the MacBook Pro 14 is that versatility. You can really build this into whatever you need. Do you need just the bare minimum? Well, that base model is pretty attractive for what you get. Do you need a mobile creation studio? That 10-core M1 Pro and some storage, that'll get you pretty far. Do you need the absolute most powerful machine that you can fit in a little backpack? You will not find another laptop as powerful and as small as the MacBook Pro 14 with the M1 Max processor. This is the Swiss Army knife of MacBooks. Getting into those specific reasons to buy, however, you cannot talk about the pro-level MacBook Pros without first bringing up the power. The whole reason folks were hesitant to buy the original set of M1 MacBooks was their perceived lack of power. I don't agree that they lacked power, which is why I call it perceived, but you could see people constantly mentioning that they were holding off because they thought those machines were lacking. Team, you can't get a much more powerful small laptop than the MacBook Pro 14. You can kit this thing out with the mind-bogglingly powerful 10-core M1 Max processor, and you can even get it with a 32-core GPU. That's not what I have in this MacBook Pro 14, but that's what I do have in my 16-inch MacBook Pro, and it's crazy. Checking out these benchmarks that I've been running, you can see that both the base model and that maxed out version could be some of the most powerful Mac computers that I think you could ever come across. And I've been using Mac computers for the past few years. The multi-core performance of even this base model MacBook Pro is far more powerful than even the highest end i9 Intel based MacBook Pro 16, and it even edges out the M1 standard in those multi-threaded tasks. In my life though, I dual hat, here's my dual hat, between my day job and an office, which frankly, my cell phone has all the raw power that I could ever need for creating PowerPoint slides and reading PDFs, while the second hat, I keep my hats on different, they just float next to my head, I guess. The second hat of a video producer does need a little more power for all of these tasks to run this YouTube channel, and the M1 Pro and Max demolish all comers for video editing. Yes, I get it. I get it that not everybody in life is a video editor, but I try to make these videos let me speak about what I know, and I spend a ton of time using all manner of gnarly, highly compressed video files. You know, that's what I use to make YouTube videos. And you can see here on all these charts that you will not get much better performance than on a 14-inch MacBook Pro. The next reason to buy the MacBook Pro 14 are the ports. And honestly, this is probably the single reason that I was most excited about this laptop. Yes, I love the display, and we will talk more about that gorgeous display in just a little bit. But the biggest lack for me on the first edition M1 Max was the lack of ports and port functionality. Getting that SD card slot back was cool and all, and I've already taken advantage of it to great effect, but HDMI just needs to be built into everything from now on. And I know, I've gotten a ton of pushback on that particular statement, but from both a working from home desk setup and from a traveling presenter being able to interface with common display ports perspective, HDMI is such a huge addition. Not only are the physical ports themselves a big upgrade, but sort of the legacy USB-C ports here have been upgraded to Thunderbolt 4, giving you a huge amount of additional external display support. I know a lot of people that need dual monitors, and thankfully here you can get up to 2 external 6K monitors with the M1 Pro processor and up to 3 with the M1 Max, with an additional 4K display out of the HDMI port. Fam, I think I could stop right here. I think I could stop the video right here and call this one of the best laptops ever made. But we have more to go. I can't make my mind explode on camera, but just assume there was a mind exploding emoji in the script like right here. Those two things turn this into basically the perfect travel laptop. I recently went on a week-long business trip, and of all the I'm looking at my Mountain O laptops that I'm stuck with right now, the MacBook Pro 14 was the only one I considered bringing with me. Well, okay, I considered bringing the MacBook Air, but I really like these ports. Okay, the next reason to buy the 14-inch MacBook Pro is the display. Yes, I feel that the other things we've talked about today are more important, but dang, it's gorgeous. This and the MacBook Pro 16 displays are, no kidding, the most beautiful screens that I've ever seen on a laptop. They've got huge contrast ratio, 1 billion colors, 120 Hz refresh rate. It's just darn gorgeous. You will not find a better looking display on a laptop. Sorry, with that notch included, you won't find anything else that looks this good. And something that I really like is this is the standard display. Something you'll find on other productivity laptops, cough, Dell XPS cough, is the good display isn't the standard display. You'll have to pay extra to get it. And while we aren't talking about battery life right now, when you get those good displays, you generally have to sacrifice a chunk of battery life to get it. But this is the all amazing screen all of the time, no matter how much you pay for this laptop. If you find yourself wanting to use a laptop for consuming content or watching movies, stuff like that, this will be the best option. It's a perfect display for watching high dynamic range video and just chef's kiss. Like, the only bad part about this display is you can't buy a bigger one just to set on your desk. And I say that because even the crazy expensive XDR display doesn't have the refresh rate of these mini LED panels. I would ditch my crazy ultra wide monitor if I could get an Apple display that's just a bigger version of this. Okay, let's talk about that battery life as the next reason to buy. Battery life on the M1 Max is crazy. It's game-changing crazy. And I know game-changing is kind of a loaded term because everybody says that about everything on the internet. This desk is a game-changing desk. My hat is game-changing. Once you start using an M1 MacBook, you will be ruined on battery longevity forever. This specific laptop gets 17 hours of battery life. Team, that's the best you'll ever need. I don't actually think I charged my laptop once during that week-long business trip. Full disclosure, we didn't do a lot of computing tasks, but the fact that I never really needed to charge it due to power loss when not in use or rapid draining while under load, that's such a clutch feature. I say this a lot, but I keep mentioning battery life, but I get pushback when I say this, and I cannot fathom folks that don't see this as literally changing the personal computing market. Because not only does this computer seem to last forever, it will also give you the full power of that 8-core processor, 14-core GPU, or 10-core processor and 32-core GPU as long as it has battery life. You don't need to be plugged into the wall to get that desktop level capability. What else could you possibly want from a laptop? Let me know. Let me know something else that you could possibly want in the comments below. I would love to hear it. And the last major reason to buy the MacBook Pro 14 is sort of a conglomeration of the previous reasons. But when you really combine them together, you get portability. I think this is the most usefully portable laptop on the market. It's not small for smallness' sake. That definitely didn't make sense. It's got all the ports you could ever use built right into it. Yes, I wish we had a USB-A, but that's a tiny nitpick. You won't really need a dongle or a laptop charger unless you are doing some kind of overnight work trip. There is nothing else that will get you the capabilities that this laptop gets you. The Dell XPS 15 is a close competitor, but it's lacking a built-in HDMI port. It's also not even playing the same game when it comes to battery life, and it will run into thermal problems if you get even the moderately powerful i7 processor. Razer has productivity options that do have some of the same I/O built in, but battery life will again rear its ugly head. HP, Lenovo, all Windows laptops can be fantastic. But when it comes to portability, not needing to bring along adapters and definitely not needing to bring along a big, heavy charging brick is such a big advantage that it would take an awful lot for the Windows world to catch up here. Even within the MacBook lineup, there's nothing really that comes close to this. The MacBook Air and the 13-inch MacBook Pro, while a little smaller and lighter, are missing both the port selection and the external display capabilities. And the MacBook Pro 16, while being my absolute favorite laptop of the bunch, it's just a monster of a laptop. Straight up, you will not get a more portable computer than this MacBook Pro 14. But at the end of the day, so what, right? Yes, if your goal is to get the most powerful, smallest portable laptop that you can buy at any price tag, you should absolutely buy the MacBook Pro 14. I have seen some reports online that the maxed out version will have some fan noise, but that only seems to be happening under the most taxing of processors, and you shouldn't lose any functionality unless you're really pushing this thing as hard as you can. But you only really do that during benchmarks. That's darn impressive that such a small laptop can compete with legitimate desktop level components. That easily makes it a top recommendation for me. Like I said, even my base model has become my traveling companion while out on work trips, and it will continue to be so in the future. There are cheaper options out there, but there are not more portable options available. And if you like this video and you are now considering buying one of these laptops, you should absolutely check out my video where I go into my favorite accessories for this most portable, powerful, just amazing machine. And you can find that by clicking right here. Click, 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 click. Thanks for watching.